This is CBC Here and Now.
I don't know how many people they would have succeeded in duping them.
There's more and more, con artists out there. There's more and more scams. We're seeing it all the time.
He was hoping to come to Canada, but was almost conned by an online ad. How some clever detective work uncovered the scam.
A scathing report from the Auditor General says the corrections system is failing both offenders and the public.
There were failures here from things I would have expected to have happened.
Coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with an update from the province's top doctor. She says flu season is off to an early start in Newfoundland and Labrador and is urging people to get their shot. Dr. Janice Fitzgerald says children under 5 have had little exposure to the flu. She also says many children didn't get vaccinated last year, which has also contributed to the spike in respiratory infections.
It's an earlier start to the flu season for sure. I don't think we've seen as early a start as this since the H1N1 pandemic in 2009-10. So it's been quite some time since we've seen this much flu in November. So certainly at the moment, we're seeing more cases than we had prior to the pandemic. And of course, during the pandemic, we didn't see very much of flu at all.
Now, the head of the Pharmacists Association says there are a lot of sick people in the province and not enough medication to go around. This isn't unique to Newfoundland and Labrador. There's a nationwide drug shortage happening. Many pharmacies have been keeping medication behind the counter to deter customers from hoarding. The association is encouraging parents to speak to their pharmacists, saying there may be ways to manipulate adult medications to treat children.
Depending on the child's weight, this is why I'm saying definitely before you do this, speak to a pharmacist, because depending on the weight, it would change how much of a tablet or how much of a liquid that you could use in a child. So depending on the child's weight, then we might be able to advise, maybe taking half of a tablet or crushing up half of the tablet to make it easier to take if they can't swallow pills.
And again, Adu says manipulating medications should be left to the professionals and stresses people should always check with their pharmacist first. We're not done with this discussion, though. More of our feature interview with Dr. Janice Fitzgerald ahead in 30 minutes on Here and Now. Well, according to the latest COVID update, one person in the province has died because of the virus in the last week, and hospitalizations have fallen. The person was over the age of 80 and from the Eastern Health region. There are now 15 people in hospital, including 5 in critical care. Last week, 19 people were in hospital. Tonight, we have a story about websites offering dreams that could become financial nightmares. When a man in Western Africa was recently offered a job in Newfoundland, he thought it might be too good to be true. And as Here and Now's Rob Antle reports, he was right.
Bernard Obu-Asare lives half a world away in Ghana. He recently saw an ad on social media for jobs doing church work in Canada.
Looking for an opportunity, I also decided to apply.
He was offered a contract position as an outreach minister at this church. But then the request came in from a law firm in this Nunavut town for money, nearly $1,000 for a Canadian ministry insurance fee. Before sending the cash, Asare decided to do some more digging.
I was vigilant enough. I decided to make some searches and to see which people will be able to help me to investigate.
It's a good thing he did. That church isn't here on this street listed on the website. And as for that law firm asking for money, well, that's not real either.
It's not on the map. 3rd Avenue does exist, but the 24, it does not exist. So there's no such thing as a law firm here in this community.
We received an email reply from the people behind the website for the church, saying the Newfoundland address is a virtual one, and their worship center is actually located here in Alert, a Canadian Forces station about 800 kilometers from the North Pole, with only dozens of residents, all of them military and government employees.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. It's certainly fraudulent.
Immigration lawyer Megan Felt stresses the importance of checking things out, like looking up lawyers' names through their provincial or territorial law society to make sure they're legit.
There's more and more, con artists out there. There's more and more scams. We're seeing it all the time. And with the internet being as vast as it is, it's just really important for everyone to do their due diligence and to do their homework.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre told CBC News it has received one report about the exact same situation faced by SRA. As of last month, the centre says it had received 58 job scam reports where immigration and/or visas were promised. Of those reports, 37 were from victims reporting a total loss of more than $222,000.
I don't know how many people they would have succeeded in duping them. So I would wish if they could be found out.
He still hopes for an opportunity to come to Canada, but says he will continue to be careful about who he's dealing with to make that dream a reality. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a fourth flight carrying 187 Ukrainian refugees arrived at St. John's International Airport last night. It was an emotional evening as some of the passengers finally reunited with family here after a tense time apart. Have a look.
How does it feel to be reunited with your grandmother?
Oh, I so miss, and you can see she is so miss for me too. Because she cried a lot about me, about war in my country, and she didn't see me around 9 months. Yeah, around 9 months, I think. We're really happy because we didn't see a lot of time together, and it was so hard. And she told me she really think she cannot, she just will not see me in future, and you can see just her reaction.
I would like today thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your help. Thank you for all.
Well, actually, it's a reunion of our family because we were in Ukraine. My husband was abroad, and we cannot be together because of the war circumstances. And we made a decision to go to the country where we can be together in safe.
It's unbelievable. It's only God could do it for us. We're happy that they're safe.
This is a pretty exciting day. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, because today is coming my part of my family, auntie and grandmother.
I didn't see my family too long. It's like half a year, and I miss them so much. My mom, my brother, and my grandmother. Yeah, and now I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm tired, but I'm quite lucky to be there in such short period of time. And using that opportunity, I just want to remind that still in Ukraine is war, and it's scary and hard to leave our place.
Well, doctors say the health department has some explaining to do. The Medical Association has unearthed a contract between the health department and the company that runs the 811 health line. Now, it shows government pays double for one of those 811 calls compared to a regular doctor's visit. The CBC's Heather Gillis explains.
An in-person doctor's visit, $37 billed to MCP. A virtual appointment, $47.
If your symptoms change or worsen in any way.
But a call to 811 costs taxpayers nearly double that, at roughly $82, and it's expected to increase to more than $90 over the next 5 years. Dr. Chris Lunscombe is the president of the Medical Association that represents doctors.
So overall, we're shocked.
In March, government signed a contract with PhoneMed, the private company that operates 811 with registered nurses and nurse practitioners. The 5-year contract is worth $31 million for 72,000 calls a year. Over and above that volume, they're paid $58 to $66 a call. Meanwhile, Luscombe is calling on the government to explain why they're paying double a doctor's visit for 811 calls.
It's so much larger. It was just a major surprise to us, and we're really struggling with trying to understand, why that virtual care would be compensated at such a high rate than physician services.
Online, some family doctors are outraged and say the issue will make recruitment and retention harder.
If there's a sense of inequity, if there's a sense that, my services are of less value than another service, then that's obviously not a positive thing for retention.
Luscombe says family doctors are the best place to offer virtual care because they know their patients and say doctors can contribute more.
But this service is an essential service to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Health Minister Tom Osborne says 811 is a 24/7 operation, offering many services like nurse practitioner virtual care, access to registered nurses, dietitians, and mental health services, something you can't equate to a doctor's appointment.
This is much different than an appointment with a physician. This is a contracted service that provides a host of services to individuals throughout the province, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So this service can't be compared on a parallel with a physician appointment.
Osborne says he is prepared to meet with doctors to explain more. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, no charges will be laid in connection with privacy breaches of long-term care residents in Bay Verte. 7 families were notified by Central Health in September about breaches of privacy, which included inappropriate photos taken by staff. Now, at the time, the authorities said some staff were disciplined and at least one person lost their job. But according to an RCMP spokesperson, a police investigation has determined that no criminal offense occurred. CBC has spoken with the wife of one of the long-term care patients who says she intends to file a civil suit. You can read more about this story on our website, cbc.ca/nl. Well, we know more tonight about the person arrested in connection with a firearm incident in Conception Bay South yesterday. A 37-year-old man was arrested yesterday outside a home in the Upper Gullies area. The charges against him include assault, causing bodily harm, choking, and possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. The RNC says officers found an injured man outside the home and he was taken to the hospital. Well, in other news, a 14-year-old in Clarenville was arrested for dangerous driving in a stolen taxi. RCMP spotted the cab around 3:30 Sunday morning on Manitoba Drive and confirmed the vehicle had been stolen around midnight in St. John's. The 14-year-old, who has a court order prohibiting him from driving, was arrested. He's also accused of striking a parked vehicle and stealing gas from a service station on the Trans-Canada Highway in Goobies. The teenager is facing numerous charges and is being held at the province's youth centre until his next court appearance later this month. And Canada Post has helped police in a recent drug bust that saw more than $400,000 worth of cocaine seized. According to the RNC, it happened a little over a week ago. Search warrants resulted in the seizure of more than 7 kilograms of cocaine, $8,000 in cash and other drug paraphernalia. 3 people from the Northeast Avalon have been arrested, a man and 2 women, all in their 20s. Police are urging anyone using illicit drugs to make sure they have a naloxone kit close by. You can learn where to access a free kit by heading to gov.nl.ca.
Well, it is feeling dreary out there. Taking a look, live look outside the studio at this hour, we've got fog and drizzle pretty much affecting a good chunk of eastern Newfoundland. Currently sitting around 2 degrees here in St. John's. Those winds out of the east-northeast, so we're seeing that onshore flow around 19 kilometers per hour. And if you look at the pressure, 104 kilopascals, that is high pressure. We're seeing high pressure, and that high pressure is sitting offshore. We do have a trough or a front that is bringing snow to a good chunk of Labrador. But in behind this, we've got lots of cold air across central areas of Canada. In fact, some record-breaking temperatures. Just take a look. Minus 21 in Fort Mac today, minus 22 in Winnipeg, but a lot of mild air the further east you go. Toronto, Montreal, all between 8 and 10 degrees. And then in St. John's, we're talking about a temperature near 3 degrees. We are going to see this cold air creep in as we head through the next couple of days up across Labrador. I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador's Auditor General says the province is failing to rehabilitate offenders and protect public safety. A new report released today uses words like inadequate and outdated. As Here and Now's Mark Quinn explains, the Justice Minister says the province is working to fix the problems flagged in that report.
Strong language is being used to describe what the Auditor General's office found when it took a hard look at the services provided by the Justice Department here.
We concluded that the department was inadequate in its efforts to manage adult offenders in custody and in community arrangements. We found that adult custody policies on rehabilitation programming and reintegration were incomplete, inadequate, and outdated.
The Auditor General went further and said the department's ineffectiveness may be leading to an increased risk to the public when offenders are released.
Gaps in legislation, policy, and procedures may create situations where offenders receive inappropriate rehabilitation, which may result in their increased risk to reoffend. Similarly, offenders serving community sentences without adequate supervision are at risk of not complying with their court-ordered conditions and possibly repeating the criminal behaviors that brought them into the justice system in the first place.
The opposition party's justice critic reacted quickly.
I am shocked. I'm in disbelief. This is a wake-up call for everyone. I'm concerned primarily about the report because of the references to the risk to public safety that the Auditor General has identified.
The Auditor General looked at a period from 2017 to 2019. The Justice Minister says many improvements have been made here since then.
We have been working on issues since 2019 to deal with rehabilitation, and I would suggest if the Auditor General would review between 2020 and 2022, she's going to find improvements of what existed in 2017 to 2019. And again, always looking at improving things. Nothing's ever perfect.
The Auditor General says the province is relying on legislation from the 1970s to govern the corrections system. That legislation was updated in 2011, and today the Justice Minister says those changes will be enacted early next year. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the tourism industry was one of the hardest hit during the pandemic, but there are signs of a rebound. And today, some key players in the industry revealed a blueprint for future growth. Here Now's Terry Roberts reports.
These are the frontline faces of the Newfoundland and Labrador tourism industry. They've endured a lot over the last 3 years.
COVID really turned a lot of this industry on its head.
But they're all smiles today here at the Rooms, a new tourism strategy known as Vision 2026. A blueprint developers hope will transition and transform a still fragile industry and allow it to thrive for many years to come. It's a product of the province's Tourism Board, a public-private partnership that worked closely with tourism, hospitality, and cultural industry leaders. It hopes to build on a prior strategy that grew tourism to a $1 billion plus industry, supporting 20,000 jobs. What's next is continuing efforts to attract more visitors, entice more investment, and ensure those visitors have the time of their lives. There's also an emphasis on protecting the environment and addressing another big challenge, filling all those jobs. This summer's Come Home Year celebration helped kickstart the recovery.
We're getting a lot more accommodations, a lot more visitors, and we just hope it continues.
But big challenges persist: air access, vehicle rentals, and environmentally conscious tourists who may view this province as a carbon footprint too far.
The numbers in tourism aren't going to grow as rapidly as they did before because of hesitation of people.
So the goal is to maximize the experience for those who come.
And creating this program or plan right now is really a great way of addressing the reality in the world that we're in.
But what's not in the plan? No visitation targets. There's just too much uncertainty, and no big new injection of government money. But for the first time in years, tourists will be asked to complete an exit survey as they leave.
We need to know how that tourist changed, or if that tourist changed.
No survey needed for this room, however. After COVID, there's a sense that only better days await. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
A building in Marystown where people gather for social activities now has a new purpose. It's supplying groceries to help stave off growing hunger in the town. Here Now's Malone Mullen has that story.
Community centers like this one are usually places to gather, not places to fill up your cupboards with food. But in Marystown, times are changing.
We're just here. This is where we will keep and store some of the food and the donations that we get.
Daryl Jackman has led the center for years. Nestled among dozens of social housing units, Jackman says this little building is becoming a lifeline for a neighborhood that's now flirting with starvation.
We're getting phone calls from people on a daily basis who are hungry. They can't afford the groceries at the grocery store.
And at the grocery store, another shift. Owner Joe Avery is watching customers buy less and cheaper, struggling to cobble together a nutritious diet as sticker prices rise. So he's doing something he's never done before, giving away the food he'd normally throw out.
It's just hard to see it going into the garbage chute where, I knew there's people in the community that could actually use it.
Now unsold food goes to the community center Daryl Jackman runs, stored for emergency rations for those waiting on their next check, and used to make hot meals that, these days, are in high demand.
I think people are struggling and, unfortunately some people are hungry and they're waiting to receive this meal to help them get through the week.
Nicole Howe is a single mother of two. She knows all too well the deep panic of not having enough to eat, and says without the food program at the community center, she wouldn't have known where to turn.
It's not just hot dogs or hamburgers or soup. It's meatloaf and it's lasagna and spaghetti and Jake's dinner and cold plates.
While large chains are volunteering these donations, in other parts of the world, they're mandatory. In France, it's illegal for major grocery companies to throw out unsold food. Howe thinks that should happen here, too, in a country where advocates say over half of food produced ends up in a landfill.
I think that the government should make it illegal to throw out food as long as, it's not going to make anybody sick or anything.
For now, unless broader changes happen soon, this neighborhood in need can only keep relying on the goodwill of others. Malone Mullen, CBC News, Marystown.
Well, CBCNL's annual campaign in support of local food banks is underway. It's an opportunity to help make the holidays brighter for some families. Communications producer Amanda Malloy will be here to tell us all about it.
Well, we do have some snowfall warnings up across Labrador. I'll tell you how much is on the way and how long it's going to last coming up.
Okay, so before we get to the weather, we'd like to put a call out for your best Christmas cookie recipe. We're holding a cookie cook-off. We're going to choose 5 cookie recipes, and this weekend, Ashley and I, along with Anthony Germain, Adam Walsh, and Chrissy Holmes, will each bake one of the recipes.
Yeah, that's right. And next week, we'll choose a winner. All of the 5 finalists will receive CBC prize pack, but the cookie king or queen will get some extra swag. So send your recipes to cookies@cbc.ca.
Yes, and if you need some inspiration, here are some of the examples of recipes that we've received so far. We have a pizza cookie, an eggnog cookie. There are gluten-free brownies that have been sent in. One called Put the Lime in the Coconut. Macaroon, which I really like, and some holiday hermit cookies. So if you have like that great recipe, or your mom or your dad or your grandmother or grandfather have a great cookie recipe that you love, just send it in to us, cookies@cbc.ca.
And your gluten-free stuff too, because
yes,
that's the one I'll be baking.
Yes. Okay, so let's get to the weather. It seems like there's a lot going on in Labrador.
There is, yeah. We're in this blocking pattern, which I've been talking about. I'm going to sound like a broken record for a good chunk of this week, maybe even into next week. But yeah, we do have some snowfall warnings in place. Let's take a look at what's going on as far as the weather system. So that ridge of high pressure, a really strong ridge of high pressure, in fact, offshore, that's parking itself there, and it's acting like a wall essentially, and nothing can really move. So we do have this stationary front, and along that stationary front we're seeing some showers and a little bit of mixed precipitation down across parts of the Maritime provinces, but this is snow up across Labrador, and that will continue as we head through the night tonight and really through the next couple of days. But take a look at these daytime highs. This is well above where you should be sitting up across Labrador for sure. It's 0 degrees in Lab City. You should be sitting around -12 as your daytime highs this time of year. Temperatures, even as you head towards the coast, should be hovering into the minus single digits. Makovic today was +5, so we've definitely got some warm air. Temperatures, though, across the island, right around where we should be sitting this time of year, anywhere from about -1 to 3 degrees is typical this time of year. So we sat around 4 in Marystown today. Same thing for Burgeo and Stephenville at 6 degrees. So we definitely do have lots of mild air. Now those temperatures have dropped just a little bit, but they're really not moving much, and they have not moved much, especially along the northeast coast. 2 degrees in St. John's at the moment. Temperatures, Lassie, St. Anthony, Mary's Harbour, you're all sitting below 0. And that means we could see some freezing drizzle as we head through the night tonight. So just taking a look at what's going on along with the winds, there's all that cloud cover and snow up across Labrador. Nothing showing up on satellite radar, but we do have a lot of low-level cloud, and this is bringing, you see these winds onshore, that's bringing that drizzle. And then as the temperatures drop tonight, that potential for some freezing drizzle. So before we get to that, though, snowfall warnings in place for Lab City, Churchill Falls, and the Valley, where you're looking at a significant amount of snowfall. This takes us through to Thursday morning or tomorrow morning. I'm talking about 5 to 10 centimeters for the most part, but more will fall through the day on Thursday. And this is where we'll see some of the most significant snowfall, particularly in the higher elevations. We'll pick up somewhere between 20, maybe even 30 centimeters of snow. Same thing towards the coast as well. Now, Nain, you'll probably pick up likely 5 to 15 centimeters, but again, those higher elevations, you may see some more. So definitely keep that in mind. Temperatures tonight will fall below 0, near or below 0 up across the Big Land, but again, way above where you should be sitting. Overnight lows are typically in the -20s this time of year. And then across the island, we've got those easterly winds, temperatures above 0 for the most part. The potential for some drizzle and fog, which may be patchy freezing drizzle for the northern peninsula and low-lying areas through central and potentially even the west coast. So things could get a bit slick through the night tonight. Now, just taking a look at what's going on weather-wise there. Future tracker wise, rather, there's that snow. Now tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon, areas through central Labrador may see this change over to rain as the day goes on, but otherwise we're looking at another carbon copy day across the island with that potential for some rain, drizzle and fog as the day goes on. Temperatures tomorrow, again, same thing, 2 to 4 degrees right across the board. Winds a bit brisk though as you head towards the west coast. Out of the southeast, around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. We may see few higher gusts in those areas that are prone to southeasterlies. But again, we will be above zero right across the board. Same thing for southeastern Labrador, 1 or 2 degrees. You may see a few showers in the mix as you head towards the coast, but overall it will be a messy day. Eventually, Lab City, you'll see your skies clear. We'll say goodbye to the snow for a little while. So that's a look at your forecast for your Thursday. We'll look ahead to the weekend though when I come back.
We all know how expensive it can be just to get by these days. We've done so many stories about inflation, the high cost of living, and in particular, the struggle of food banks across the province. Well, this month, CBC is launching its Make the Season Kind campaign in partnership with the Community Food Sharing Association. And here to talk more about that is Amanda Malloy, the communications producer here at CBC. So can you tell us a bit more about this campaign?
Sure. The campaign is really all about making the season kind for those in need. As you mentioned, we've partnered with the Community Food Sharing Association again this year. They distribute to food banks right across the province, to over 140 food banks right across Newfoundland and Labrador. And this year the need is significant. It's much greater than what we've seen in previous years. We've worked with the team at the Community Food Sharing Association to learn as much as we can about the need. And it's a need unlike any other year we've seen. The food bank usage is up by 27% relative to last year. That's the amount of visits throughout the last year are up 27%. We also know that 30% of the people who rely on food banks for basic nutritional needs are children, another very sad statistic in the province. And we also know the actual cost per pound of food has gone up significantly. So relative to last year, it was $2.60 per pound of food. This year, it's $3.21 per pound of food. So with the increased need going up, in addition to the cost to fulfill those needs, it's certainly a year where giving and supporting your neighbor is more important than ever for those who can.
All right, Amanda Malloy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
This year, we're connecting more, we're sharing more, and we're helping more. This season, whatever kind of season you make it, make the season kind.
When you can give somebody a special treat like Mary Brown's chicken, it's a very dignified way of showing our guests that it's not just the Salvation Army, it's the entire community that comes together to help support people who are struggling.
Chicken and chips for more than 500 people at the Wiseman Center in St. John's today. Mary Brown's donated the meals and the Salvation Army served them up hot. The group has been partnering with Mary Brown's on this for the last 2 decades. Sasha McDonald says she's grateful for the extra food and help, especially this time of year.
A lot harder, like people trying to get Christmas, trying to pay the bills and trying to stay up on track, and it finds it really hard. It's not only me, but there's a lot more others that struggle and don't want to go to the news about it or anything like that.
Well, as the cough and sneeze season hits emergency rooms hard, some people wonder time to bring back a mask mandate. We'll put that question to the province's Chief Medical Officer of Health next.
we're barely into December, but already cold and flu season is hitting hard. As of the end of November, there were already 19 people hospitalized because of influenza. Respiratory infections are also filling the emergency room at the Janeway Children's Hospital, forcing the cancellation of some other surgeries and appointments. Well, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald is the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and she joins us now with a little bit on what you can do to protect yourself. So starting off, how do those sort of numbers that we're looking at compare to other flu seasons before the pandemic?
Certainly, it's an earlier start to the flu season for sure. I don't think we've seen as early a start as this since the H1N1 pandemic in 2009-10. So it's been quite some time since we've seen this much flu in November. So certainly, at the moment, we're seeing more cases than we had prior to the pandemic. And of course, during the pandemic, we didn't see very much of flu at all. And some of that may be related to the fact that more people are getting tested, but we certainly do think that we are seeing more flu circulating as well.
Why is that?
You know, especially in the younger age groups, they, the under 5, say, they haven't really had much exposure to flu before. So, that sort of innate immunity that happens because you've had exposure to viruses, whether or not you get sick from them, you may still get exposed to them. That really hasn't happened. Our youngest kids really haven't had that chance to be exposed. And so, and then perhaps not a lot of them got flu vaccines last year, so they didn't have that benefit of an immune response either. So, we're seeing a lot of these children now are seeing flu and RSV for the first time. Their bodies are. And so we're seeing more of them sick.
So right now, the numbers show only about 10% of children or so have been vaccinated. So if more people don't get vaccinated, how could that affect the overall severity that we're seeing of flu this year?
Yeah, so right now, certainly, what's happening in the hospitals, and certainly the Janeway has recently said that it's seeing quite a large amount of flu circulating and people coming into the facility. As well as hospitalization. So, I think if we can get vaccinated, we can certainly change that trajectory. And if people don't get vaccinated, we will certainly see more of the same. And I will say that the vast majority of people who have been admitted to hospital with flu have not been vaccinated.
How bad could this get?
So I think, every year it will run its course. It'll follow an epi curve in much the same way as we've seen in other diseases in other years. For example, if we think about COVID, right? So it will gradually run its course, but we would like to see that happen with as few hospitalizations as possible and as the least amount of severe disease as possible. We don't want our little kiddies getting sick.
So we have seen pediatric emergency rooms are getting overwhelmed, taking resources away from other areas of the Janeway in order to, deal with this surge. How much worse does it need to get before we start bringing in more public health measures, like, for example, requiring masking in schools?
Yeah, so from a public health orders point of view, those can only be brought in. Special measures orders can only be brought in when there is actually a public health emergency. And a public health emergency can only be declared if we don't have a way to mitigate the risk without introducing some of these special measures. Right now, we can mitigate the risk. We have vaccinations.
But even without a public health emergency, couldn't you talk to the school board and say, hey, we think it would be a good idea to bring in masks in schools because we're seeing so many cases in children and because it's overwhelming the healthcare facilities for those children?
So we have to think about schools really are only one place where children are interacting with each other. And by and large, a lot of the children that are being admitted right now are actually in the younger age group, in that under 5, so they really aren't able to tolerate masking that well. And so we've not recommended it in those age groups before, even when we had the mandate in. And, the places where kids are having the closest contact and and persistent contact, really you got to think about, some of the social activities that they're taking part in together, recreational activities, that sort of thing. So it's really difficult to prevent the spread of a virus like influenza if we're implementing something in just one area. So that's why we're asking people to, make a risk assessment, and make the choice to wear a mask if they feel the risk is higher, and to wear a mask if where it can have the most impact, which is in those 10 days after your symptoms start if you become unwell.
Okay, well, Dr. Fitzgerald, thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Years ago, I was visiting my grandmother in her nursing home during Christmas, and we got to talking to one of the nurses there and found out that there was a lot of seniors in the home that actually didn't have anybody for Christmas.
Who says Christmas is all about the kids? We're about to meet someone who makes sure older people are also on Santa's Christmas list.
You are watching one of Santa's many, many helpers hard at work here in a satellite workshop.
I could use an extra hand.
Two of Santa's helpers hard at work here in one of Santa's satellite workshops here in Airport Heights. This is Kaylee Reynolds. And on top of being a very busy Santa's helper, Kaylee also runs a business. She runs Made to Sparkle, and for the last 5 years, she's been running this whole Santa workshop donation drive, and this is all about the seniors. What are we putting in these bags here?
So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
A little bit of essentials, toothpaste, shampoo, and then just some gifts.
Some brain food. We got the puzzles. We got the denture cleaners.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. How did you get started on this donation drive, the Santa to a Senior drive?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, I was visiting my grandmother in her nursing home during Christmas, and we got to talking to one of the nurses there and found out that there was a lot of seniors in the home that actually didn't have anybody for Christmas. So what they received was basically only what the nursing home gave to them, and that broke my heart. So I reached out to the director and asked if there was anything I could do to help, and Santa to a Senior was born.
You've been busy since. I mean, how much has this donation drive grown since that very beginning 5 years ago?
Huge. So we see an incline in donations every year. It's great. We have so many different businesses reach out every year. It seems to have gotten a lot of momentum as the years go on.
I understand that your grandma, Margaret, was a huge Christmas person, and obviously, you know, she was a big driving force behind you starting all of this. How did she react in the beginning when you told her that you wanted to take this on?
She loved it. She's a big helper of everybody, so she was all for it. She was really happy for me. She actually cried, but she passed away during COVID a couple of years ago. And I thought, what better thing to do than to rename my fundraiser after her. So Margaret Santa to a Senior.
Oh my goodness, it gives it a whole other meaning now.
It does.
Oh my goodness, and I can't help but not acknowledge as well, Kaylee, you know, just the world. Everything seems so much tougher right now. Everything's so expensive. I mean, have you gotten a sense just yet of how many seniors could really use one of these bags this year?
Yeah, so the numbers rise every year. Last year we helped 28 seniors. This year it seems like we may exceed 30.
This is a lot of work, so you're going to be doing dozens and dozens of these bags. How much help do you get? How much support are you getting from the community?
A lot. So every year it seems to be more and more people. We have businesses that donate time or money. We actually have, the last couple of years, the Brownies actually did up Christmas letters and art to go to the seniors, which we got a lot of really great feedback on.
Like the Brownies, the younger sisters of the Girl Guides?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
When the seniors get these bags, how do they react? Have you gotten any feedback?
Yeah, so the girl that I connect with through Seniors NL reaches out periodically to let me know if anyone has let her know what they thought of the bags. We actually had one lady that waited until Christmas morning to open up her bag just so that she had something there to have, and that was the tearjerker for me. That was the moment that I knew this is what I was supposed to do.
It's really incredible, just from that one comment 5 years ago, and here you are. I mean, what does it mean to you to know that for that one person alone, you made their Christmas morning?
It means everything to me. It's slowly or quickly, I guess, depending how you look at it, is my favorite part of Christmas. I can't wait for Christmas to come to start my Santa to a Senior drive.
How can people help out what you're doing?
Yeah, so right now we have a post on Facebook that basically shows you all of the items that you can donate, or we also accept email transfer for those who just don't feel comfortable yet to go out shopping.
And then you're going to go do the shopping too?
And then we're going to go do the shopping.
Oh, you're going to be busy.
Always.
And your deadline's coming up soon.
It is. So our deadline is this Saturday, December 10th. When all the items come in, we go through and sort it and decide what is left to get, and we head out to the shops and pick it up.
You are some Santa's helper, I gotta say. So if people want to help out and get in touch with you or bring donated items, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so Facebook or Instagram, Made to Sparkle on Facebook, Made to Sparkle NL on Instagram are probably the best places to reach me.
Okay. Well, Kaylee, you got a little bit of muscle here with you now. You might as well put us to work. I'm sure you got other bags back here.
I do.
You want a hand?
I want a hand.
All right, let's do it.
Thank
Kaylee.
you so much.
Oh my God, thank you. Put us to work. Let's go.
Well, there's lots of festive things happening over the next couple of weeks, but tomorrow night the annual tree lighting at the Confederation Building will take place around 6:40 or 6:25. That's when they will light the tree, and it does look like not exactly the most winter-like forecast for sure. 3 degrees, drizzle and fog in the forecast. But if you're planning on heading out, good news is this year it's not going to be windy, which is one thing that you don't want when you're lighting some of the lights in the Confederation Building. But overall, we are looking at this pattern of this rain, drizzle and fog continuing, and that will certainly be the story even as we head into Friday. Taking a look at the temperatures, 2 to 4 degrees pretty much for the eastern half of the island. The western half of the island, we'll start to see the potential for a few flurries in the mix. Things will start to change up a little bit. Same thing for the northern peninsula. Then we start to see some of that colder air filter right back in for Lab West. You'll have around -10. Going to see some sunshine, but we're going to hang on to these mild temperatures, relatively speaking anyway, for central and eastern areas of Labrador. Now, as we head into Friday evening and then through the day on Saturday, that clearing trend will be the story across Labrador. Start to talk about some snow in coastal areas, and then otherwise we're looking at the showers and or flurries, the story for Saturday right across the board across the island as well. -1 for the west coast, but about 3 degrees for the east. Taking a look at the long-range forecast, I do think we'll see the sun on Monday. I'm going to keep that in there for now anyway. And then for central Newfoundland, same thing, maybe a bit earlier on Sunday, but flurries will be the story as we head into western Newfoundland through the weekend. Temperatures will dip below 0. For Labrador, at least the east, you'll see the sun again, potentially Sunday, Monday. This is a chance of a few flurries, but we are looking at temperatures dipping back down to right around more where we should be sitting this time of year. And then same thing for western Labrador. Just before we leave you tonight, I want to show this great shot. Not a winter shot, but a beautiful one. Ocean views from Kelly's Island. Thank you to Greg for that shot. And if you have any weather photos, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, great shot. I always think of buried treasure when I think of Kelly's Island. Well, that is it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you can come back tomorrow.
Good night.